So turnarounds are an essential part of playing blues and one of the most fun parts of playing blues. But usually the turnaround has a shuffle feel or a swing eighths feel. But what do you do if you've got a tune with a straight eighths feel? The song that I played on the way in is Charlie Patton's Pony Blues, which is a blues with a straight eighths feel. As opposed to... And so when you get to the turnaround, you need something that's going to sound good with that straight eighths feel. And underlying the kinds of turnarounds that you can hear on Pony Blues is this move where you rock between the 1 and the 5 chord. And even when he's using more of this kind of, it still works over the straight eighths feel because it concludes with that 1-5-1 sort of thing. Like that. Now, one of the great conundrums when you're transcribing or figuring out things off of records is how close to the original do I have to get, and how much can I sort of work out an average of the various things that someone's doing to get to something that conveys the spirit of that tune. Because something like Pony Blues, there's, I don't know how many choruses, 10 or 12 or whatever. And every time through, the turnaround is a little different. So what I want to show you today is, here's a way that you can think about a steady bass, straight eighths turnaround for this kind of tune. Here's one example of what will work, and then you can spin whatever variations you want off of it. I'll be teaching a complete arrangement of Pony Blues this fall inside my membership, the Fingerstyle 5. But if you can't wait until October to get your hands on some new blues tab, go to the link below or the link on screen to download my PDF, The 5 8-Bar Blues You Should Know. And you can get started on my arrangements of tunes like Nobody's Fault But Mine, You Got to Move, and 3 other great classic tunes. In the meantime, though, once you've downloaded that, let's get into playing this turnaround on a steady bass blues in E. So the turnaround almost always shows up in the same place on a 12-bar blues, which is in the last 2 bars. So if you're playing a 5-4-1 kind of ending to a 12-bar blues with a shuffle feel, you've got the B7, A7, and then when you land on E, that's when the turnaround starts. And then you wind up on the B7 chord. But if you're playing more of a straight eighths feel, you might sit on the 5 chord for 2 bars. And when you get to the 1, you might not do that typical descending thing. You might just rock between the 1 and the 5. So E7, B, E, B, and E, which is a really different sound and a really cool sound. And that'll basically take you back around to the beginning of the form. Okay, so what's going on? First, I'm playing with a steady bass. So I'm going to have, in the bass, I'm going to have E to B, and then E to B to E. So that's how I'm sort of thinking about, that's how I'm spelling out what's going on with the chords in the bass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And in terms of the chords on top, it's an E7, a B7, and then an open position E, a B7, and an open position E. So this kind of E chord, and this kind of E chord, and then a B7 that's really, and here's the bottom 3 notes of a B7, the root, the third, and the flat 7. And then you would have an open B, except that the melody is kind of calling out for this note here, C sharp on top. So when you play that note over the B7, I'm calling it B7, it's really the sound of a B9 chord. That kind of thing. But that makes it sound a little more complicated than it really is. So we've got these slides into the E7. instead of just playing right on these frets, we're going to start a fret below with everything, 3rd fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret, and then slide up as we hit them on the and of 1. And then on 1 and 3 and. So you're going to use a combination of the chord and the open high string on top. And then reach for the B7 on beat 4. And then go to the open B. And then an E with the high string on top, and then the open B string. And then that B9 again, and then back to the E. So first measure of the turnaround, bar 11. Second measure, bar 12. So it's just a series of little moves that when you stitch them together, I guess you're going to anticipate that last E hit, so I'm going to reach for the E chord on the, let's see, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, so on the and of 2. Like that. So you're coming out of the 5 chord, fits in like that. Now, once you've got that basic idea worked out, you can play variations on it. One of my favorites is to still think of this chord shape, this E7, as something that you can walk down, but only making sure to use the 3rd string and the open high string. So which is kind of a cool sound because you get the sound of this. And there are other things you can work out as well, but that's a nice one to get started with. More importantly, just the idea that you're playing with a steady bass with straight 8th notes on top instead of a shuffle feel, and that you can have this rocking between the 1 and the 5, which is a really cool sound and a really nice change from the typical descending kind of turnaround that we all typically play when we're playing on a shuffle feel. So that's the idea. Again, I'll be teaching a complete arrangement of pony blues this fall inside my membership, the Fingerstyle 5. And if you'd like to get your hands on some new blues tab before then, go to the link below or the link on screen to download my PDF of the 5 8-bar blues you should know. And in the meantime, if you've got a question or a comment about today's lesson, leave it for me down below. I would love to hear from you. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.